Good morning, everyone. It is February 20th, 2019. In this video, I'm going to talk to you about why one can't change the system through peaceful means. And I know I've talked about this some before, but I'm still seeing people who believe that this can be achieved, and it cannot. And I'm going to tell you why. And there are many reasons why. I'm going to try to cover the best reasons why. Alright, so most people in their heart of hearts have discontentment with the system. And a lot of people would never admit that they have this discontentment to others, but they do. Each time a person's paycheck gets smaller, they get more and more upset with government intrusion. And the reason why, one of the major reasons why you can't change the system through peaceful means is because a lot of these guys are the ruling class. They are sociopaths. They are psychopaths. And a lot of them, believe it or not, are inbred. They were born to two family members, two blood relatives. So they don't think like you and I do. Now, these people believe that that they have every right to rule over us and tell us what we can and can't do. Now, trying to fight the system or change it using peaceful means, well, it's a lot like trying to save yourself from a serial killer who has you captive through the same avenue, peaceful means. And the reason I say that is because our government is filled with people who are pedophiles, killers, and criminals of the worst kind. Surely you realize this by now. So, arguably, we are looking at a situation where a bunch of serial killers has the country held hostage, has your freedom held hostage, and the only way to make effective change is through watering the tree of liberty with the blood of patriots and tyrants. I'm sure that saying sounds familiar to some of you, and it's true. Now, we have a situation where they being the ruling class, the government, they want to do things like mandate vaccines. And the FDA is pushing for this. Now, let's say you're a parent of a child who hasn't had any vaccines, and all of a sudden they want to inject all 30-something vaccines into your child. And if you don't, you're going to go to jail. You see, when somebody says that should be mandatory, what they're really saying is, if they don't comply, they should die. Which puts a lot of American citizens into a rather precarious position. Now, I will do anything I have to protect my children. My son, he has not had a vaccine since he was 3 years old. My daughter, has not had a vaccine since she was 6 months old. Now, I know I shouldn't have gotten any of the vaccines, but I did not know about the real dangers of them before, right? And the moment I found out, I stopped going to these salesman doctors because, well, they're the main reason why people are getting vaccines. They are telling them one thing, but leaving out, they're telling them the benefits, but leaving out the problems that's occurred with a lot of these vaccines. So now we're getting into a position where there are people out there who want to see government mandate these toxic vaccines. Now, what do you suppose the reaction is going to be when CPS begins to show up at the doors of some of these people and they demand that they get the vaccines or lose their kids? You see, government is nothing more than the threat of violence against you. Government, that's the only way government can maintain control over the population, is through threats of violence, threats of imprisonment. If it were not for these two things, people would not listen to the government. And very few people are willing to put their bodies, lives, and reputations on the line to fight the government. I, however, am not afraid. My child's future is at stake. My future is already fucked. I don't have a future, but my children, they have their whole lives ahead of them. And I'll be fucking damned if some pig in the FDA who approves every toxic fucking drug under the sun telling me what I must put in my child. You cannot fight people who want you dead through votes. You can't. And then now, of course, Donald Trump wants to bring the death penalty up for people who sell small amounts of drugs and anti-Semites. Do you think a person should be executed because they disagree with the Israelis? Do you think a person should be executed because they're selling marijuana? Do you think a person should be executed if they are selling other drugs? I'm going to tell you why I don't. The buying party, they make a choice, just like smokers and alcoholics do when they go buy a product, right? They know that the product is dangerous, just like smokers and alcoholics, and they do it anyway. Now, by the logic Donald Trump is going by in executing drug dealers, he should be also including the store owners who sell cigarettes and alcohol to people, knowing how destructive those two things are for a human being. Where does it stop? Where does government intrusion in your lives stop? As far as I can tell, it doesn't. It doesn't stop. And each and every passing week, we get less, or we have more and more freedoms stolen from us. We have more and more wealth stolen from us. We have more and more people being needlessly prosecuted and gunned down by the police. You cannot fight serial killers with peaceful means. You cannot fight serial killers protesting. You cannot fight serial killers begging for their mercy. None of these things works. The only thing governments understand, and that's all governments, that's every government on this planet, the only thing they understand is violence. The only thing they understand is force. And if you don't do what you were told, they will use force on you. They will use violence on you. They will kidnap you. They will lock you away and throw away the key. And yet, the American people are supposed to sit back and take every fucking bullshit legislation Congress, Senate, and the President pushes out. And you voters out there, the voting public, keep on falling for the sweet little whispers in your ears like a bunch of sluts with wet little snatches. So, why do you continue to believe that anything's going to change without our bloodshed? Why do you think it's okay for the government to tell me what to inject into my child? Why do you think it's okay for the police to come and kick down my door and throw me in a cage over a plant? Why do you think it's okay for any of this to be happening? Now, we have a government forcing us to inject our children with poisons. We have a government forcing us to pay way more taxes than we were paying back in 1773, 4, 2, something like that. We have less freedoms than we did back then. You have to have a license for everything. For everything. If you want to start a company, you have to have a license for it. They have outlawed most normal human activities. And if it's not outlawed, you have to have a permit to do it. Like owning a firearm. Like hunting. Like fishing. And selling fucking hot cocoa on the side of the road for a kid. Our children aren't even free or safe from government persecution. They too are attacked on a daily basis. They are attacked through vaccines. They're attacked at school. They're attacked sexually. You name it, and our children are under that type of attack. Yet your jobs, your careers, your daily lives are so much more important than the freedom of our children, than our own freedom. Every day, we get more and more restricted. You ever heard the song by System of a Down called A Prison Song? It's exactly right. It's exactly right on point. And here we are, living in a giant open-air prison where our freedom is restricted more and more. And if you disagree with the ruling class and you break their fucking whims, you get segregated from the rest of the population and put into a closed prison. If you don't believe that you live in a prison, just look at the Real ID law. that's due to take effect next year, 2020. Without this ID, you won't be able to travel, you won't be able to go in federal buildings, and probably going to be a whole lot more restrictions than that on you. We need to fight with blood, sweat, and tears. Any effort short of these is a waste of time, energy, and wealth. I myself, I am willing to die for your freedom. I am willing to die for my children's freedom. I am willing to die to do what it takes to break free the people of this world, the people of this country, from their bondage, even if they don't want it. I would rather live in dangerous freedom than live in peaceful slavery. I would rather face the threat of death every single day of my life. I'd rather my children face the threat of death every single day of their life than be subjugated under a government where you have no chance, of living a free, peaceful life. There are so many reasons why we should destroy the government that I couldn't possibly think of them all. But here's one for you. If you Christians and you Muslims and whatever else, whatever religion you might be, if you look through your religious books, you'll see all these kings that treated their people like shit, right? And then if you look at history, you'll see all these governments that have killed their people. I believe it was, 365 million in the 20th century? And that's not even including combatants. That's just civilian casualties by the hands of government. So, you have a choice. Either be a bootlicking faggot and suck the ass of every president that you like, or you think you like. Every president that tells you what you want to hear and does the exact opposite when they get back in off or elected. Well, look at Donald Trump. Look at what he was saying about those vaccines when he was running for president. Have you heard shit out of him since then? No. No, you haven't. Because it was a ploy. It was a ploy to get right-wing votes. And it worked. And you guys are fucking idiots for falling for it. Here's a good rule of thumb for you. If tens of millions of people think it's a good idea, then it's probably really a terrible, terrible idea. Like government itself. It's a terrible idea, but for some reason, they think the idea is so good that they will use violence, coercion, and death to force your compliance. What are you going to do when CPS shows up at your door and wants to take your children because you know what those vaccines can do to them? What are you going to do? I know what I'm going to do. Hope everyone has a good day. Remember, kill the state before the state kills you.